A new study was recently published looking at the effects of foam rolling and using a massage gun on subsequent performance. I'm going to take you through the study, how they did it and what they found, and then if this is even applicable to you in the real world. And before we go into that, make sure you check the description. It's a 7-day free trial for the training app and also the free jiu-jitsu and MMA strength conditioning blueprints. But I've got my notes here. So this study had 16 healthy, active young adults. Essentially, they were just training approximately 3 times a week for a specific sport. Nothing groundbreaking, just your regular active individuals. So what they did is they used a randomized, counterbalanced crossover design where they had 3 experimental trials. They had the massage gun trial, the foam roller trial, and they had the control, which was just a dynamic warm-up only. Now, a randomized counterbalanced crossover just means that the subjects did each experimental trial within the study, just in a randomized order. So for example, one subject might have done the control, the massage gun, and then the foam roller on 3 different days. Someone else might have done the foam roller, massage gun, and then the control as an example. Now, as part of each trial, all participants did the dynamic warm-up, and then the massage gun and foam roller conditions did that after the dynamic warm-up, whereas the control group just did the dynamic warm-up only. And to run through the specifics of these, the dynamic warm-up was just using the RAMP protocol, which is raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. Essentially just going from low intensity movements, starting to get the heart rate going and get moving, and then progressively increasing the intensity into high intensity or quote unquote specific movements for the task that you're doing next, making the final exercise you're doing more high intent driven. Now, following this dynamic warm-up for the massage gun group, they did 12 minutes, so 6 minutes per leg, using the massage gun of the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and the calf muscles. So if you're not familiar, a massage gun is essentially like a percussion instrument, and it's just heavy vibration and quick pulsing onto the muscles, kind of like you're getting a massage, to be honest. The foam rolling intervention was very similar. It was again 12 minutes, it was 6 minutes per leg, and they just foam rolled the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and the calves as well. Now, following these interventions, they performed a counter movement jump test, which is just a vertical jump. They performed a 10-5 repeated jump test, which is the measurement of reactive strength index. So essentially how bouncy or elastic or how quickly you can produce force. A 20-meter sprint test, and then a knee to wall lunge test, which was a measure of ankle mobility. And here's what they found. The 12-minute intervention using the massage gun or the foam roller immediately after the dynamic warm-up led to decreases in jump height and modified jump reactive strength index, which is basically how fast they can go down and up, compared to the control trial, which didn't do the massage gun or foam roller, they just did the dynamic warm-up. They also found that the massage gun trial resulted in significantly slower 20-meter sprint times relative to the control group, while the foam rolling had no significant effect on sprint performance. And we kind of see some of that if you look through some of the meta-analysis around foam rolling and performance. They also found that left side ankle mobility significantly increased joint range of motion following foam rolling compared to the control, and was associated with significantly less muscle soreness. So overall, just from these findings taken at face value from this particular study, massage gun and foam rolling may impair some measures of physical performance when compared to a dynamic warm-up alone, even though there were some modest improvements in range of motion and muscle soreness. Now, I'm not going to go into the potential mechanisms of why, as they'd just be purely theorizing, which is nothing wrong with that, but I think there are some more prudent issues to address. And in my opinion, the negative findings from the study is down to the methodology. And that methodology is performing a dynamic warm-up and then spending 12 minutes sitting on a foam roller or using a massage gun, essentially cooling back down. As directly after they went through the experimental trial of this 12-minute massage gun and foam roller, they had to do a high intent movement like jumping and sprinting and expect to perform. Now, for you sitting there, you can probably imagine what happens after you perform a general dynamic warm-up and then wait 12 minutes, then have to do something explosive like this. And we could argue this cool down likely occurred since the control group performed slightly better. When most people use these training modalities, or at least warm-up or recovery modalities with massage guns and foam rollers, they're typically used at the very beginning of the warm-up. And there's a few reasons for this. The first one is what was demonstrated in the study. You want to use a similar protocol to this RAMP protocol that they use for the dynamic warm-up. So you're starting with your easier work first, and then you're progressing the intensity as you go through your warm up, so you're ready to hit the first exercise with maximum intent that is in your training session. Instead, you're going from a high intensity movement and then lying on the floor and doing something low intensity. It doesn't quite match what you're trying to achieve from the session. Secondly, the goal of using a massage gun or foam roller as part of your warm up is to acutely change something, so then you can load it and create long-term change. People often get the idea that foam rolling or massage guns are the answer to whatever problem they have, or whatever dysfunction they have, or whatever tightness they have. It is not going to do anything on their own. Instead, use it as essentially a proprioception feedback tool. Whereas if I'm feeling quote unquote tight in an area, or knotty or restricted, you can use these tools to essentially roll over the area, create that sensation to be able to acutely reduce pain, or at least the restriction. And then you're gonna load that muscle or tissue, whatever it is, through a range of motion. And that's gonna create the long-term structural change that you need, so it's not going to be like that all the time. It does not make sense to use a foam roller or something similar directly before a high intensity exercise. For example, if you're working up to a heavy squat and you get to your final sets, you're not gonna foam roll between your last warm-up set and your heaviest working set. You would do it before to allow you to get into the positions you need for that squat, and then that would be it. So here's a really simple warm-up structure that you can use within your training. If you need to, you can use foam rollers or massage guns at the very beginning, attack any areas that kind of feel a little funky. You do not need to use them. They can just be a tool if you do want to use them for whatever reason. I would highly advise that you don't start using these tools as almost a crutch, because that can happen where you feel like you need to be able to massage something to feel better versus just getting movement done. But regardless, if there is some issue, use your foam roller first. After that, I like to use a warm-up circuit. It is fast, it is efficient, and it addresses a lot of qualities at once that you might want to within a warm-up, especially when you're short on time as a combat athlete. This circuit should address either movements or qualities that you can't address within, say, your 2-day-a-week training program because there's just not enough time. It should address potential areas that are often injured within combat sports. Think shoulders, neck, potentially ankles, knees, etc. And it should potentially address some kind of mobility restriction if you have one, or something that just needs maintenance. One common one will be something like thoracic rotation or thoracic extension, and just having the upper back move. You'll pick about 3 exercises. It could easily be more. You could even do 5, but 3 is just a nice sweet spot. You could do a mobility exercise. You could do some light extensive plyometric exercise, and you can even do some kind of neck exercise. Do them in a circuit, no rest, 2 to 3 rounds, and then you can move on to your next movements, which may be some more intense throwing or jumping or Olympic lifts. This way you're able to get your warm up done quickly, and you can actually get into your main work that's important. There's no need to warm up for 20-30 minutes like some people do, and there's no need to do a dynamic warm up and follow that up with foam rolling and everything else. Now, if you want to do a little deeper dive into other, say, more recovery modalities, I actually have this video here I did a few years ago where I go through a pool recovery session that you can do. It's one I used extensively with a lot of my athletes when we'd play weekly games and would have to recover each week for competition. And it's a sequence that I like to use that will make you feel amazing. So check that video out.